All right, guys. So what I want to do now, before we implement the app class and event listeners, I want to update these stats or put whatever needs to go into these numbers based off of the meals and workouts that we add. All right, so I want this to reflect in the DOM. So in the calorie tracker, we're going to add a bunch of new methods. So if we look at the diagram here, you'll see that for private methods, we have display calories total, which is going to be the total calorie, basically this right here. So it's going to, I put gain and loss because it can be negative. Like if you haven't eaten anything and you add a workout, then it's going to be a negative number. All right, but that should be the total. And then we also have display calorie limit. That will be this right here. We have consumed and burned, so these two, and we have calories remaining, which is this one. We're not going to do like new meal or anything like that. That comes later. But then we also need to be able to render these onto the screen after we add a meal or after we add a workout. So we'll also have a render method that will call these all of these methods. So let's jump into app.js and we'll start off with the calories total. And this is going to be, these methods are going to be pretty easy. It's just grabbing the element and then maybe doing a little calculation, for instance, to get all of the consumed or burned, and then putting that number into the element. So we'll start off, let's go down here under the public methods. In fact, I'm going to put a comment here that just says these are public methods. Okay, or public methods or API, because it's a public API to use outside of the class. And then down here we'll have our private private methods. All right, so let's create the first one, which will be underscore display, let's say calories, display calories total. So this is actually pretty easy because we already have the total calories as a property. So we don't even have to do any calculations. We just have to output that into the correct element. So let's create a variable called total calories L for element. And I'm going to say document dot, let's close that up, get element by D, or you can use query select or whatever you want, and calories dash total is the ID. And just to show you that, if we look at the index.html and we come up to the top here, let's see. So that's the limit right here where the gain loss is. So this has a div with the ID of calories total, which right now is just hard coded to 400. So that's what we want to, where we want to add this. Okay, now we're just going to simply take that total calories element and we're going to set the inner HTML equal to this dot underscore total calories. So if we save that, that's not going to do anything because we haven't run it, right? So we're going to come up here, and in the constructor we want to run it because the constructor runs immediately when you instantiate the class. So we'll come down here and we'll say this dot underscore display calories total. All right, now if I save that, you can see now this goes to 0, which is the default. Now down here we did add a meal and we did add a workout. So remember, we came out with 100, right, when I console logged it. In fact, we're still console logging it right here. We get 100. So why doesn't this say 100? Well, with vanilla JavaScript, we have to basically cause the render. We have to cause it to render again once we change something, right? Once we add a new workout or add a new meal. It's not like a framework where that stuff is already set up for you and you have that mechanism to react to your code, which is why React is called React. So what we're going to do is create our own render method. And this is, we've done similar stuff to this in past projects, but let's go ahead and create render. And basically all I want to do right now is simply call that display calories total, right? And then we want to call that render wherever we need to, which in this case will be when we add a meal or add a workout. So let's say this dot underscore render. And when we add a workout, this dot underscore render, save that, and now we get 100. All right, so if I come down here and let's see, let's add another meal here. So we'll say const lunch and set that to new meal. Say lunch, and let's say that that is 350 calories. And then we have to add it. So we'll take the tracker, we'll add the meal of lunch, save that, and now that changes to 450. So that's the total. Now let's also display the limit, which right now it does say 2000. However, that's just coming right from the HTML. So we want to show whatever is in this property. So just like we did with the display calories total, in fact, I could probably just copy that and we'll say display calories limit, and then let's change the variable here to calorie limit L for the element, and there's an ID of calories dash limit, and then we want to set the calorie limit element in our HTML to this dot calorie just calorie limit, right? That should be underscore. Now the limit isn't going to really change, right, unless we do this one event, unless we change this. So it's not something we have to put in render. However, we do want to put it in the constructor because we want it to run when the app loads. So let's come up here, and I'm actually going to put this above that. So let's say this dot underscore display calories limit. So by doing that, if I save, we see 2000. Now, just to make sure it's coming from here and not just the HTML, let's change it to 2200, and you can see that now that gets changed to 2200. All right, so that is the calorie limit. Now let's do the consumed and burned. And for this, we're going to have to do a little bit of calculation, because here we just have the total calories. We have to figure out, well, which, what came from the workout, what did we burn from workouts, and what did we consume from meals. So we can actually do that using the reduce high order array method. So let's come down here we'll go right above the render. I want to keep the render at the bottom, and let's create display, we'll say calories, and let's do consumed first. So display calories consumed. And what I'm going to do first is get the element where I want to display it. So calories consumed element, and we're going to use document dot get element by D, and it has an ID of calories dash consumed. Now I'm going to create a variable called consumed. And the way we can do this is simply by taking all of the calories in the meals array and adding them together. So we can actually use reduce for that. So we'll set this to the result of this dot underscore meals, which is the array, and then reduce, which is a high order array method. And that takes in a callback function. And that function takes in two arguments. One is the accumulator, or the total, we'll call it. And the next is whatever we want to call each meal, which I'll just call meal. All right, and then what we want this to do is take the total and then add the meal dot calories. Now we can pass in an argument here that's going to be total, where total begins, which of course we want to be 0. So basically what it's going to do is loop through all the meals, and it's going to set total to 0. It's going to loop through once, and it's going to add whatever the first meal calories are. It's going to loop through again. It's going to add whatever the second meal calories are, and so on. So that should give us consumed. Now we just want to output that, so we can just do calories consumed element dot inner HTML and set that to consumed. Now we want to call this in a couple places when the page loads. So we want to add it to the constructor. So this dot underscore and display calories consumed. And then we also want to put it in the render, because obviously, you know, that could change once we add a workout. I'm sorry, once we add a meal. So let's save that, and if we come back over here, we see calories consumed 750. And if we come down to here where we actually added meals, we have breakfast, which was 400, lunch, which was 350, so that's 750. If I take away lunch, let's get rid of that and save, and come over here, and now we have 400 consumed. So now we want to do the same with burned, which is going to be very similar to consumed, except it's going to be the workouts array. So I'm just going to actually copy this and paste this in, and let's do display calories burned. And then we're going to change this to calories burned element. The ID is calories dash burned. And let's see, change the name of this variable to burned. And then the array that we want to reduce is going to be workouts. And again, we just want to add the calories. So let's just change that to workout. And then we want the total plus the workout calories. And then let's take the element, which is calories burned element, and set that to the burned variable. All right, now we just need to add this to our constructor. So we'll say display calories burned, and then we also want to add it to render. Let's see, render, and copy that down. Burned. All right, save that, and we have 300. So if we come down here, let's just change morning run to, let's say, 320. Save, and there we go. So now we get 320. So the last thing I want to do is show the calories remaining. So right now it's just hard-coded to 1600 in the HTML. But we're going to add another method here. So let's say display calories remaining. All right, and what we're going to do to get that is simply subtract. We want to subtract the total calories from the calorie limit. All right, but first let's get the DOM element that we want. So calories remaining L, set that to document, get element by ID, and that has an ID of, I think it's calories dash remaining. And then let's create a variable here called remaining. And like I said, we're just going to take, let's say, this dot underscore calorie limit, subtract this dot underscore total calories, and that will give us the remaining. So we can just now say calories remaining element dot inner HTML, set that to remaining. And then we just want to call that in the constructor. So this dot underscore display, what did I do? Display calories remaining. We're also going to put that in the render. This dot underscore, whoops, not burned. All right. Yep, and there it goes. It changes to 1920. So the reason it's 1920 is because we started with 2000, we added 400, and then we subtracted 320, which leaves us with 1920. All right, now one more thing I want to do before we implement the app class is make this progress bar function. And also when we hit our limit and the remaining is 0 or less, I actually want to make this box red and make the progress bar red. So we're going to do that in the next video.